They didn't teach you the truth about Africa. They taught you propaganda, that poverty, tribalism, colonialism, slavery, culture, all of it has been packaged in false stories to control your mind. And that propaganda spreads across the globe, shaping how billions see Africa. When Europeans sailed to Africa, they did not arrive with curiosity. They came with a narrative. It was simpler to present Africans as savages, tribal, primitive, poor, so that colonization, exploitation, and theft would appear justified. Over centuries, those narratives got deep into textbooks, media, and even inside the minds of Africans and the diaspora. We talk about poverty in Africa as though every African is destitute. We speak about tribes like they're locked tribes forever. We say African leaders are corrupt, as though corruption is natural, not a product of a broken system. It's time to strip away those lies, one by one. Number 1, poverty. For generations, Africa has been branded as the poor continent. Charity adverts show starving children with flies in their eyes, as if that is the everyday reality for all Africans. But the truth is, poverty in Africa was manufactured, not natural. Colonialism drained trillions in resources and left debt systems in place that still bleed nations dry today. Africa is not poor, it is robbed. The Democratic Republic of Congo alone holds mineral wealth worth trillions. Yet its people are forced to live on less than $2 a day, while the rest of the world charges its phones and builds electric cars off their cobalt. The problem has never been African poverty. The problem has always been Western theft, corporate greed, and global systems designed to keep wealth flowing out while dependency flows in. Africa must move from dependence to self-determined economies by building industries that process its own resources instead of exporting them raw. Number 2, tribalism. When the West describes Africa, the word tribal always comes up, painting a picture of people locked in eternal primitive rivalries. But tribe is a colonial invention. Pre-colonial Africa had kingdoms, city-states, clans, federations, complex political and social systems, every bit as sophisticated as Europe's. What looks like tribal conflict today is often the direct result of colonial borders that carved nations into fragments, forcing dozens of ethnic groups to coexist in one artificial state. Calling Africans tribal is like calling Europeans tribal for having Germans, Italians, French, and English, but Europeans get nations, Africans get tribes. That's the lie. Africans must transcend colonial borders by strengthening unity across ethnic lines, putting national and pan-African identity above division. Number 3, colonialism. We're told colonialism ended, as if the moment European flags were lowered, the story was over. But colonialism never died. It just changed shape. The infrastructure Europeans left was not designed for prosperity, but for extraction. Railways went from mines to ports, not from towns to towns. Governments were set up as centralized command structures designed to control, not empower. And today, neocolonialism operates through global finance, trade agreements, and military influence. France still holds a colonial grip over 14 African countries through the CFA franc, where African nations deposit reserves into the French treasury. Even aid often comes with strings attached, forcing policies that benefit donors more than recipients. To say colonialism is over is to ignore the chains that were only polished, never broken. The continent must break financial chains by creating stronger regional trade, currency independence, and policies that serve Africans first. Number 4, slavery. Slavery is often spoken of as history, as if its legacy ended in the 1800s. But slavery is alive in the present, not just in scars, but in chains. The transatlantic slave trade ripped millions from West and Central Africa, scattering them into the Americas and the Caribbean. Families were destroyed, languages lost, histories erased, and the wound didn't heal when abolition came. Black communities across the diaspora continue to suffer in multiple ways. And yet slavery is not only a ghost of the past, It is a crime of the present. Across Africa today, millions are trapped in modern slavery. Children in mines digging cobalt, women trafficked across borders, migrants in Libya sold in open-air slave markets, workers bound to debt they can never repay. Sub-Saharan Africa has the highest rate of child labor in the world, with 1 in 5 children forced into work instead of school. The chains may look different, but the system is the same. Human lives reduced to profit. Slavery is not over. It exists both as a wound carried through generations and as a brutal reality unfolding right now. Number 5. Resources. When people think of Africa, they think of hunger and need. But Africa is not a continent of scarcity. It is a treasure chest the world keeps looting. It has 60% of the world's arable land, 30% of the world's mineral reserves, and produces the majority of the world's cobalt, platinum, and coltan. Nigeria is a top oil producer. Ghana leads in cocoa, South Africa in gold and diamonds. Yet the wealth leaves the continent through exploitative contracts, tax havens, and foreign corporations. The irony? Every modern luxury, smartphones, electric cars, gold jewelry, exists because of African resources. Yet the continent is framed as poor. Africa doesn't lack wealth, it lacks justice. Africa must protect and control its natural wealth through transparency, local ownership, and leaders who put people before profit. Number 6. Languages. Another lie is that Africa is linguistically simple, a place of broken English and French accents. In truth, Africa is the most linguistically diverse continent on Earth, with between 2,000 and 3,000 languages, from Swahili to Yoruba, Amharic to Zulu, Wolof to Shona. Each carries philosophies, worldviews, histories. When colonial powers arrived, they downplayed African languages as dialects and elevated European tongues as the standard of civilization. That's why in Nigeria today, children may speak perfect English, but feel shame for not knowing their mother tongue. The erasure of language was not accidental. It was a strategy of control. Because if you strip a people of their language, you strip them of their memory. And without memory, they become easier to dominate. Africans must preserve, teach, and modernize indigenous languages so future generations inherit their memory, philosophy, and pride. Number 7. Leaders. African leaders are corrupt. That's the stereotype. But corruption didn't begin in Africa, and it's not unique to Africa. Many leaders who tried to build independence were undermined, overthrown, or assassinated by Western governments. Patrice Lumumba of Congo wanted his nation's resources to benefit his people. He was killed with CIA and Belgian support. Thomas Sankara of Burkina Faso fought for self-reliance. He was assassinated in a coup backed by foreign interests. Even Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, a visionary of Pan-African unity, was overthrown with CIA involvement. Corruption exists, yes, but so does sabotage. Africa's leadership crisis is not because Africans can't govern. It's because those who try to lead with integrity were often eliminated by the very powers that lecture Africa about democracy. Africans must demand accountable leadership, reject puppets, and support leaders who act with integrity and vision. Number 8. Culture. Africa is painted as exotic, all beads and drums, which are beautiful and powerful in their own way. However, the continent has birthed civilizations that shaped the world. Timbuktu's libraries housed ancient manuscripts on medicine and astronomy, while Europe still called the earth flat. The Kingdom of Benin produced bronze sculptures so advanced that Europeans couldn't believe Africans made them. Ethiopia built stone churches carved from a single block, centuries before Europe's Gothic cathedrals. We all know the undeniable history of ancient Egypt. Africa's imprint is everywhere. The lie is that Africa is culturally primitive. The truth is African culture is the root of global culture. Africa must value and invest in its cultural industries, ensuring its creativity is owned, celebrated, and monetized by Africans themselves. When black people break free from these lies, that is when true power is unleashed. Culture revived, language is spoken, pride restored. That becomes a revolution. Own your narrative. Don't let textbooks or the news define Africa. Read African thinkers, learn African languages, reclaim your story. See the system, not the person. When you see corruption or failure, look deeper. What structures created that failure? Don't reduce it to Africa is corrupt. Unlearn internalized lies. When you hear in your head, Africa is backwards, counter it. Speak the truth. Africa is deep, complex, beautiful. Connect across the diaspora. We share this narrative war. Each voice strengthens all. Support African businesses. Invest in African stories. Mentor diaspora youth to see Africa as hope. We will not wait for permission to reclaim our dignity. We will speak truth. We will change the narrative. And by doing so, change the world. When people ask you why care about Africa, answer, because Africa is not a problem. Africa is a possibility. And the greatest lie ever told is that we have no choice but to accept someone else's narrative. It's Afro Algo, Diaspora Rise.